Okay, party people. What's happening? Alright. Let's take a quick little fun. Excuse me. Let's make sure A, my video is coming across. And 2, the audio is sounding good. It's not overly bearing. It's not crazy. Let's make sure all that is happening for us. I'm going to take a little screenshot of this for us. Let's go ahead and then let's just export. Yes, let's save out an image of where I'm at right now. We'll just put this on the desktop. X-Wing progress. If somebody can let me know, audio is good, everything else is good, that'd be a great help. I'm going to bring this into Spotlight. Kind of just like have it in here, and then we can always have it here, like that. And we are going to change the opacity. Let's make it a lot smaller, just so we have it kind of here. Let's pick a black color. Okay, and then we're going to do paint. We're going to hold the control key. And there we go. All right, so what I did is see, I made it kind of, I got rid of the gray background so I can have this image always here. Okay, and then that way kind of can see where I came from and where we go in this stream. We're continuing to move forward with this. If anybody can let me know for sure, audio is good, video is good, really appreciate it. Just throw it in the chat for me as we get moving here. That'd be a huge help for me. Okay, we want to turn on live booleans now. Okay, interesting that this is missing. I know I did do a shape for that. We'll have to see if I turned it off. Yeah, isn't it this? There we go. That's what we want. That. Layouts. Yep. Okay. I started mapping out kind of the upper part here, making sure that's all going to align right with me. And then let's take this. This is all these pieces, and let's turn this on as well. So subtracting from that, and then this should be, let's see, should be this, and then we only need the back half of this actually. Like, we don't need the rest of it to do what we want it to do here. So let's get rid of some of this. Like, this is not really necessary. Let's go to here. Yeah, that'll be enough, looks like. Let's go ahead and delete the hidden of this now. Good to go. Okay, sound and vision, good to go. Thank you, Shane. Appreciate that. I'm going to rearrange kind of my Cintiq here. So we're a little bit more in this. Okay. All right, we're going to continue on again. For those that are just joining ever, I have a little X-Wing here for me that I like to use as my guide as I'm building this out. So right now I'm just going to, let's go ahead and look at this. Here, we'll turn our display properties on double, and brush the modeler. Let's go ahead and just close this off. Okay, that's good enough for me. I don't need it to be amazing because I kind of want to just make sure. Let's also, for the sake of, let's make this be all one polygroup. Let's do that. Yeah. Okay, and then let's go ahead and QMesh, polygroup all. And so this little parts that's sticking out should be, I just need to do that. And then now it's gone. There. I just needed to make the piece bigger. so that wouldn't show up. So that way when I'm looking at this, I'm seeing what I want on this. Okay, so let's come up here to the top because I was working on this. Okay, this piece here is where I left off last time a little bit. So we're going to continue down that path. Let me get the rest of the pieces in here that I need to have in here. Okay, it needs to have a little bit of some thickness to it. Did that. Okay. Yes. Yes. All right. Okay, let's start making some of these shapes. So I'm going to go a little bit of thickness inside. And again, my ultimate goal is I'm going to 3D print this. It's not going to be a huge 3D print. So I'm going to add extra thicknesses in areas just so I can print it out. We want this to be sitting a lot lower. Probably more in that realm. And let's add some thickness to it now. Go a little bit more. I think I'm going to go, yeah, that's about right. And let's go only inside for now. Let's look at this again. See what we start going. Might be a little too much. Let's dial it back some. We'll go right around there. Something like that might be. Let's go there. That's good for me. Okay, I'm liking that. That works for me. This is going to get covered up, so we're good there. We're just trying to make sure again, the pieces that I'm doing, everything can fit before I start going crazy detailed with everything, right? So I'm kind of creating, I'm also creating like base meshes for what I'm working on. If you look in the camera, is that right there, right? There we go. I'm working on that. So I like to create some like base meshing ideas just to kind of make sure my scaling is correct. What's also in lines with our proportions. Okay. So that's all I'm trying to do. So I'm going to now apply this so it actually creates the topology for me. And I just made it go somewhere else. Hold on. I just made it go somewhere else. I need to find my mouse. Where are you? There you are. All right. It actually, there we go. Wait, I need my mouse. Okay. Hold on, sorry. I am reordering it. Let's see. Now. X-Wing Luke. Okay. There we go. Let's bring this back over. It actually crashed on me. I should probably just save this out so I've always got it. Probably would be the smarter thing to do for me. Opacity, throw some color in this, switch to black, hold control. There we go. That way we can just have it chilling there. I also want to turn off this. And let's go ahead and save this out. So let's just save Spotlight. Okay. Let me put it over here. I'm going to save it here. I'm going to put it in the same X-Wing folder that I have on my other drive. X-Wing. Okay. Save. All right. Back to it. There we go. Back to it. Now we got to redo the parts that I was doing. So, okay, let's turn on our live Boolean. Let's make sure that is on. And when I saved this, I was turning things off. Don't know why, but that's okay. And then now let's select again this, so I can select this piece. We'll just solo this out. And I don't need any of this, so we'll get rid of that. So once again, modify topology, delete hidden. We will switch to ZModeler, hover over an edge, and we'll close that off, right? And then we want these to be the same polygroup, like so. Now we can turn on dynamic again. All right, if we want, we can then make sure. Let's go ahead and crease by PG. So that's creased off all along there. All right, and then we'll make it be a different polygroup. Turn this on. And now let's just grab one of these, Q mesh, and we will do a polygroup all and grow this out past that. And then there you go. And there we have it. Okay. I'd like to do save next. I like to have iterations of everything I'm doing. So I'm doing a save next. Let's go ahead and ZModeler again. Let's select now this piece. And again, I want it to live probably around that height. And this time, let's also show a different way. I'm just going to do, here, we don't need it to be like this tall. I don't know why I made it this tall to begin with. Right there's good. Okay. And then again, Q mesh this, and we will come inward on this. I'll do that instead. Now I've got that where I want it. Let's go ahead and I'm going to crease it by an angle so that when I turn on dynamic, we got some softness there. Definitely want to crease this right here. So I'm going to do a crease. We'll do a partial. Make sure that's creased, that's creased. Let's make sure those are creased. Let's crease those up. Let's get that creased, that creased. Okay. Looks like we are in business now. Okay. I think that takes care of that shape. All right, perfect. So now let's start building out some more of these elements really quick just to see. And again, ask questions if you have anything ZBrush related. Feel free to ask any question that you guys might want answered. I'm happy to also answer stuff while I'm building this. All right, so let's see. It's got yes and yes. Okay. Let's take a look at this. In fact, there might be that shape already exists. Interesting. Okay. All right, let's do a half sphere, a half cylinder. So we need a cylinder shape on either side. So let's just use insert mesh brushes, I guess. Yeah, I guess we can use that. Let's use this. Let's insert a cylinder here. And it goes about, I would say about that big. All right, and then it lives right here. And let's use this cylinder instead. I don't need as many spans. It's going to be easier. That's enough. Okay. That's good. So it's going to make it easier for me to do things. So I'm going to solo this out for now. And this, let's hide these faces. Let's go ahead and delete them. Delete the hidden. Let's go back to our handy dandy ZModeler. I'm going to bridge from there to there. Oops, there to there. Okay, so that's seeing, let's, that edge, to that edge, that edge, to that edge. Okay, because it's supposed to be flat like this. We're definitely going to want creasing. So I'm going to crease around that. Let's also, for the sake of just helping me out along the way, let's make this, I tend to do this. I tend to make sure I'm actually polygrouping this off because I never know what I'll want to do, right? And it's going to end up looking like that anyways. I am going to also, because of the nature of this, I'm going to do this. I don't like the topology that I'm using here right now. So let's see. We can probably, let's QMesh polygroup all. Just give it a little bit. So then that way, crease by PG. And then we'll crease the corners. So now we have that. Let's uncrease this. This topology I hate. I might just actually go ahead and let's go ahead and just split these off. I don't like this topology. So I'm going to split this off. Let's make some new topology. Okay, dynamically, that's probably enough. We can go and then apply that. We'll delete that. And then now we want to use the polygrouping. I think I'm going to, hold on. I think I'm in a beta. Let me get the release version. Let me get out of this one. Give me a second. I see a question coming through. Let me. Okay. It's been a while since I've been on this. Getting in here. Let's launch this. Hold on, I just want to do a little update. In here. 2026. Yeah, it's seeing, because I have so many versions of ZBrush right now on my computer. Let's move this one away. And I'm launching like one that I don't want, so I'm gonna go get the one that you guys actually can get, the one that is for the public. What's up, Steven? How do you polygroup certain faces? I'll show that. Hi there. I have a question. Unfortunately, it's not related to hard surface modeling. How can I remove light bumps on model? Model have multiple subdivisions, but smooth on lower level. Not doing much. Sorry. Okay. All right, Eric. Yeah, I will show that. I'm assuming you have some kind of model. Is it like a Dynamesh model? So you're saying, did you actually remesh it? Because you have subdivisions, but did you just divide up like a Sculptris Pro Dynamesh model, or did you actually remesh it and then add the subdivision levels? That would be an important element here, because if you're just dividing up the Dynamesh, or you're dividing up the Sculptris Pro type of topology, you got a lot of triangles there. And so if you're just doing a regular smooth, it's going to create kind of little bumps. So I can cover that for you for sure. And then Chivalrum, okay, remeshed and after. Okay, so you remeshed after subdividing. So you divided up. So you divided up like a Dynamesh, started going at that, and then you remeshed it. And then you added your subdivision levels back. Is that what you do? Can you, just to make sure I clarify, I will show what I mean by having Sculptris Pro and in a Dynamesh. I normally do not subdivide up a Dynamesh mesh. It's not really something I would do normally. I would always remesh it. And then same thing with a Sculptris Pro mesh. I wouldn't divide that up because it's just crazy triangulation that's happening. And when you start adding, triangles don't obviously divide smooth because you got a triangle. So then it's going to just keep creating little triangles. And that's what will create sometimes little bits. Once I get this up, I'll show you guys what I mean by that. In the polygrouping one, how do you polygroup certain faces? I use ZModeler to do that, so I will show you that as well. So we'll cover all these before I continue on. Hold on, I'm just getting rid of some of my betas on my computer and getting me the released version of ZBrush for me. So give it a second here. Let's see, am I done? I think I'm done here. Let's see if we got... And I'm just launching. Oh, okay, it's still installing. I might have messed it all up. I jumped the gun. Hold on, I'm gonna... Not a good start here. I jumped the gun. Where's my installer? Hold on, all these windows are blocking me. Sorry, 1 second. I need to find where my actual installer is here. Is it done? I'm going to close some stuff down here. Okay, let me see. Okay, up to date. Let me now launch this. Hold on, sorry. I had to... Okay, there we go. Now we're in. Okay, there we go. Got her. Boom. Okay, now I'm going to go, this is why I saved that out. I'm going to load my spotlight. It's in my X-Wing file. Oh, that's a different one that I had saved out. That has all this. Load spotlight. Here we go. We want that one. And then brush. We're going to turn our samples off. Projection, I don't want to use that. Then let me load my tool, my most recent one. Okay, there we go. And we'll throw some live boolean on. I gotta make this again. Okay, okay, your questions now. All right, so hold on, let me get my OBS up so I can see the questions coming through from here. Okay, here we go. Okay, so the bumps. I mean, you can see slight shadow and it shows surface of the model or uneven. Okay. Okay. All right. So let me start with the question about the bumpiness. So let's go to here. Let's make this a poly mesh. Okay. So a Dynamesh. So this is stuff that might be giving you your bumpiness. Okay. So let's say we have this. So this is the goal of Dynamesh is try to have equally distributed polygons. So when you're sculpting, right, I can then, hey, that's stretched. We can, on the fly, fix it. So the problem is, though, we're also allowing triangles in this process just to speed up this workflow for us so that we can really work fast with Dynamesh. However, you're going to start dividing this up. You're going to start running into some problems. So regular smoothing, you can even see kind of here. Where see it's got like right there and right in here, right in there. And you even see if I come out here, you'll start seeing little bits of like, kind of like little peaks and things that are happening. This is because of the topology. Okay, so if I divide this up, I'm just going to make this worse, right? And you can see if I'm just smoothing, I'm going to create little lumpy parts here because these are triangles colliding with quads. I don't know how well you guys can see it. Let me see if we can switch. Okay, there. Maybe a speck. So you guys can see that, right? See, right along here, specifically, right along here, as I rotate, you can see little bumps, little... Okay, and if you look, that's because you can see triangle, 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 triangles, right? And then when you look, triangles do not divide as nicely as a quad. This is why you'd want to be all quadded if you can. When you're dividing, you'd want to stay away from triangles as much as possible. Okay, so if we then also throw something like Sculptris Pro in, right, which we're just completely triangulating everything, okay, because like you're just going to get these triangles. And it's dynamically tessellating and decimating along the fly. So again, now if you divide this up, right, you're going to get, and now you start to smooth, we'll turn Sculptris Pro off, like you're not going to completely get rid of these lumps. It's just the geometry is our major problem. Even if I walk down, right, and we start smoothing this out, you're going to smooth it out, right, but you're also still going to, in points, still have, just like we have up here. So your workflow would be, if you're going to use anything like this where it's a Dynamesh or anything like that, you want to remesh. You don't want to be keeping it in this topology type, whether it be Sculptris Pro, Dynamesh, scan data, some CAD file you brought in that's really triangulated. Your goal would be this. So now, however, there is another smoothing that I like to use that solves this problem that we built specifically for this problem. Right, so when I'm smoothing, right, all I'm doing is pretty much making it worse. Okay, I'm just making these peaks be worse. However, I can smooth like this, and you see all the peaks are gone. So this is actually the smoothing brush that I use more than the regular smoothing brush or any other smoothing brushes with inside of ZBrush. And then this is the Smart Smooth, all right, or the Alt Smooth brush. Okay, so we ripped it out of ZBrush. So it's this brush, the Smooth Alt. But that brush, in essence, these two brushes right here are on by default when you launch ZBrush. So no matter how you start with ZBrush, even if you have custom stuff, by default, these two brushes are all connected. They're there, all right? So what you're doing is, if you keep your finger on the shift key when you're doing this smoothing, you're actually using this smooth in the main smoothing brush. You're using this smoothing brush. If you hold the shift key and then let go of the shift key while you still have your pen on your tablet or your Cintiq, we switch to the alternate smoothing brush. And this one's more of like a relaxing, right? Where the other one's kind of like a push, push, push smoothing. The easiest way we can really look at this is if we drop down to a lower level. Let's come here in the sphere. Let's go kind of big brush size here. Right, and if I start just smoothing one area, you see really fast, it starts to flatten, right? Because think of it as almost like the Superman. I'm not only smoothing the surface, I'm pushing on the surface a little bit as well. Where if we now come over here right next to it, and now I just do the relax, look, I'm still smoothing, and see, it's still maintaining spherical, and it's not flattening. Look how much more I'm smoothing than I did to the one to the right of this. So this is, again, holding the shift, touch the surface and then let go of the shift, and see, look, I can even fix that one. See? Fixed. Right? So number one, you probably want to start using this smoothing brush if you got little bits of something going on there. Okay? So let's say you did what I have. Like I've got a Dynamesh piece. You guys have started sculpting on it, right? You start putting some details in there, and now you've run into this smoothing thing, and it's a problem more than anything, right? So let's do the standard. Let's do a little spray. I like to throw this stuff in there, okay? So I want to now get topology that's going to also smooth better. This is kind of one of the main reasons why we wanted to make a Z-remesher. So for me, this is how I like to transfer my data and my information. I think this is what everyone should be doing now. And transferring the data personally. That where we started at, okay? So I'm going to remesh this. And when I remesh this, I'm going to lose details. Because the remesh is about reducing the polygon count, creating an all-quadded mesh, and then try to figure out the quadded remeshing based upon whether sculpt is kind of living, so it kind of still gives a little bit of the form, but it's never going to be able to keep everything, right? Because this is sitting at 566,000. In fact, the polygons it's sitting at, yeah, it's 566,000 polygons. I'm about to remesh it down to something like 10,000 polygons. So it's not a one-to-one. You're not going to be able to keep your details. So what I'm going to do, look up here. Okay, this is definitely one of these Lisa needs braces, Lisa needs braces, Lisa needs braces, Lisa needs braces, Lisa needs braces moments. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to hold the control key and make a marker in my undo. So up here, I have now this orange. You see it's got a little bit light gray in there. So this is storing the undo that we have. Then I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to remesh this. Okay, this is not symmetrical. So, or is it? Yeah, it's symmetrical. So I'm just going to remesh it to default. Okay, so I'm just going to give me the remesh version of this model. Give me all quadded, reduce that polygon count under 10,000. They're going to say 8,951. Let's see. That's my guess. That's what I'm going to guess. You never know. 8,005. Okay, not even close. It's 13,000, right? So you can see it try to maintain, but it's not going to do perfection. It's just, that's not its goal. Its goal is to maintain some of it and then give me a new mesh. So now you can see I have now that gray marked, and then now this is the new undo because that's the remesh. So I'm going to divide this up something closer to what I had. In fact, I'm now only at 22,000 polygons. And so now I have this undo mark of the original model, and now I have my remesh version, right? So if we go back and undo history, we've got this version in memory, and now I've got this new version. And so what I'm going to do is go into subtool, then I'm going to go into project, and I'm going to click this right here, project history. And what ZBrush is going to do is look at this undo marker and only give me that sculpt. And then there you go. And then now for you, what you were asking about smoothing, you're not going to run into the bits of issues with smoothing now because everything's quadded. So you're actually not going to run into, when I'm smoothing it, it's going to stay pretty smooth here. And again, I can also let go of the shift key. And you can see it here in the topology. Here, let's zoom in. So this is normal smooth. Let's smooth out a bunch here. Okay, and you can see if I keep going here, 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 right? You can see this area is smoothing, right? But if I undo this, okay, and we go a little bit here, here, here. Now, if I let go of shift, you can see it starts expanding the topology better, right? So even this, like you can go see, look, it's just going to relax the topology more, is how I like to describe it, more as a smooth. So for me, this is a must, but then there's your workflow when you're trying to go from like a Dynamesh, Sculptris Pro, scan data. This is the steps I would personally do. Okay? So Eric, let me know if that answers your question and takes care of, because we had the other question about the polygrouping. Okay? The other one for the polygrouping, I have a very, very, very low polygon mesh. So polygroups has multiple buttons that we can press and just give us results. I.e., this cylinder has distinct normals that are all facing the same direction on the top here. All these normals facing the same direction. These are not. They're all kind of moving a little bit in different directions. So I could just say, here, how about I just group by normals? And it's got a slider that says, hey, pay attention to any normal that's under 45 degrees. Keep it the same polygroup. So if you look, all these became blue, right? And all these became green, and then these stayed like a pink, right? Okay, because these normals are all the same plane. So then it's saying, okay, well, these are all the same plane, so I'm going to make them the same normal. And then same polygroup, same thing with those. But these, the change in normals is not big enough to justify, right? So if I drop this down, I don't know, let's go maybe down 5 degrees. And now you can see every row is getting a polygroup now, right? Because I've told it now, the normal from here to here, it is more than 5 degrees. So give it those new normals. I mean, new polygroups, okay? But what I was doing is I was using ZModeler to also just paint my polygrouping. And because I have low topology here, it makes it easy. So ZModeler has the ability, when I'm hovering over a face, I can hold spacebar and say polygroup, right? And then this has, here, if we come up here, this has options here, where right now it's saying overwrite. I'm down, look here, down here, down here, down here, right? So I can just tap, and you see I'll make a polygroup. And then this brush stores polygroups. So this has got a stored green polygroup. If I click and keep tapping the Alt key, you'll see it keeps changing the polygroup. right? And so now I got a purple. So every time I touch, I get a purple. Okay, so it's just an easy way to create polygroups. I don't really much do it this way. I don't usually turn to this and have this, okay? So what I normally do is stay in the QMesh mode. And what we can do is we can paint temporary polygroups. This is also, in essence, look at it as almost like selecting faces close to it, because then now I can QMesh the action. You see everything that's white will happen, that action to it, and that's a QMesh. So what I want to do is I don't want white, I want a new polygroup, okay? So when you're holding down the Alt key, I'm holding Alt, and I'm just moving my cursor to each polygon. So each polygon I go to, it gets white. My finger's still on the Alt key, it hasn't been lifted, but if I lift my finger and move my cursor, we immediately turn the white into a polygroup. And now I can keep painting with this blue. And because my cursor has not been lifted yet, I can also tap the Alt key while I'm painting and keep changing the polygroup to what I want. So that's all I was doing. I was using this ability where you have painting ability, right, with your polygroups, and then clicking on it and going. Right? Does this make sense? Shiva Room, you were the one asking this question. Does that answer your question and help you understand what I was doing? All right, and it looks like, Eric, your Alt Smooth is good. You have the answer you were looking for there, so that's great. All right, so making sure, Shiva, if you're still here, that is what you were looking for. Let me know. Okay, I don't want this anymore. Guess it doesn't really matter. Okay, so back to this. Let's one more time. Right, let's take care of this again. Right, so I'm actually going to put my gizmo here, like this. And so when I'm doing this, I can actually see when it touches the surface. Okay, and then now, again, let's unmask these points. Move this down. Let's go there. All right, we're going to now QMesh all polygons, and I'm just going to pull that in a little bit. There we go. Turn on dynamic. I want to see it dynamically happening. I also want to see some creasing in here. Crease! I'm going to crease those edges. Let's look at this again. Okay, turn dynamic on. Okay, looks good. Let's go ahead and crease. I want that creased, that creased, that. Let's crease this up. Let's crease it up. Whoops. Okay, and let's go ahead and let's do a save next, so I don't have to keep doing this over and over again. Okay, good. All right, let's grab some cylinders, because there needs to be a half cylinder shape in here. So let's just start again with an insert mesh brush. That's fine. Let's make sure it's doing this. I'm going to replace this for a topology that I would prefer, which is more in this realm. Let's go ahead and that. It's not this big. Let's dynamically change the size of this to be right around. Let's see. Where's my little X-Wing? Let's see what they put in here. Okay, I would say it covers it pretty good. All right, I just noticed something that I didn't do in this that I probably should fix. I'm going to say a little bit smaller. We'll go right about there. All right. And then let's go ahead. Just thinking about how I want to break this up. Let's go ahead and split it off. All right. And then let's just have this. We are going to crease this and do some normals. So let's do this. Going back to that polygrouping, I could just do this group by normals, and I know I'm going to get this ability, right, that I want. Okay, and then I am going to actually Dynamesh these just to make my life easier here. Let's go Dynamesh. Okay, we need a lot more topology than that. We need a lot more than that. Okay, there, that's enough. And then let's go ahead and clip it. Let's work symmetrically. Let's also just mirror and weld this over so it's the same polygroups. And I'm going to turn on polygrouping here and just cut across this. So now that I have polygroups, this is in essence what I have. Looking at it not dynamically, this is what we get. And let's actually redo this because perspective is on. I don't want perspective on when I do this. So let's do that. There we go. We don't want dynamic on right now. All right, so we got this. I am going to clean this up really fast. So I'm going to say deformation. I'm going to polish by groups. And actually, let's make it really more, not that strong. Okay. And then let's go ahead and cut across here, cut across here. All right, so we have this, but let's actually, instead of this brush, let's use our knife so that it's super clean. Something like that. There we go. Works for me. And then I could even do this. Okay. And so now let me remesh this. We can go pretty low with this. I'm going to go all the way down to 1 and remesh this. Let's see what we get. There we go. Perfect. That's what I want. Then I'm going to crease this. Okay, let's crease by PG. Now turn dynamic on. And now we've got what I want here. And let's go a little bit bigger with this now. And it sticks out not that much. Sticking out a little too much. Let's go right around there. Okay, so now that I've seen this, yeah, we're good. Okay. Excellent. All right. Does this have the undo? Okay. I have noticed something that I want to take care of, actually. All right. I'm sorry. I'm just thinking the steps that I want to do with this to double check things. Okay, there we go. As far as Linux goes, I don't know if we'll ever do that. Couldn't tell you for sure yes or no if we would do a Linux version. Maybe so. I don't say no for anything at this rate, but I can't guarantee yes or no's what we're going to do. So maybe someday. I don't know. Okay, so this shape, I actually need to fix this. I'm actually not done. And I'm going to take a different approach to this, actually. I'm going to brush the modeler. Let's go ahead and insert an edge loop. Let's go halfway through. There we go. Let's go back to this low polygon item again. Let's delete hidden. Where are you? Where you be? Where you be? Okay. What am I doing here? I am doing a delete hidden. Brain will function yet. Let's then start doing a bridging across these. I want to close this up actually. I'm going to take a different approach to this. I probably don't need to go this extreme with the bridging, but I'm being too meticulously crazy about this. So why not? I could just do a close hole now, realistically. But why not make the topology good topology? Okay, so this would go, we could get rid of this. Let's for now get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. And then now we can bridge from here to here. Whoops. And here to here. Same thing on this side. Bridge there to there. There. Oh, we need to delete. Oops. This first. I didn't delete the other side of it. We also want to get rid of that middle portion. Let's go back to bridging. Here to here, and then here to here. So it's closed up. There it's closed. Let's do a mirror and weld along the X and the Y. So we get this. Right, and then now let's do this. Okay, I didn't get rid of the spans there. So that's a problem. So let's delete for now. Let's delete this and this, this and this, and then now I want to delete. Insert. We don't want this, don't want this, don't want this, don't want this, and don't want this for now. And then now on the top, let's go back to bridging. Actually, I need the middle one. I don't want this one, or this one, but I need the middle one. Now I want to bridge from there to there, there to there, mirror and weld it. Now we have this. Let's crease the corners. So now we have this. Okay. I think that is good enough. Let's go up in divisions a little bit. So let's go into our dynamic. Let's give it a little bit more. And it looks like these are creased here, so I don't want these to be creased. That's our problem. So let's uncrease this so it's rounded. I want that round. Right? I want that. Okay. And let's put an insert. Let's definitely insert an edge loop here so that's a little bit tighter. And then this is a little bit tighter. Okay, let's do something like that. Why not? Let's just add some more topology in here. Let's do multiple edge loops. Let's just add some more topology through here. Okay. Better. Better. Okay. So looking at this, it's not the same. It's kind of asymmetrical piece. So I'm just going to use kind of the ability to Dynamesh and do other things here. So there is a portion of this. So we could do that, or, you know, maybe it'll be easier to do polygrouping here. We'll see. It might be actually easier to keep this. Now that I look at it, let me turn this off. Let me look at it this direction. Actually, I might just stay low polygon. We might be able to make this work, actually. Let's just stay low polygon. Okay, so I'm gonna insert an edge loop here. Let's do a single. Let's also crease it. So I'm gonna put an edge right about there. And then these faces, let's Q mesh just this up. Oops. So it just meets like that. Something like that, I think, is good. Let me look at it this way. Yep, and then we need another little bit coming out. So from this area out, so let's make, I'm thinking, you know what, I'm gonna do a little bit more. I'm gonna put an edge here as well. And I'm gonna put this to be more, a little bit like that. And then I want an edge here. And now I don't want this symmetrical though. I want that out, and then I'm gonna tap and give that. And I think that is more what I'm looking for. And then yes, that is much better. That is giving me what I want. All right, so now that we have this shape, right, there's two ways we could go about this. Let's look at just this. Okay, we need also this to be out, so let's That one goes there, and I'm just tapping to repeat. And then we want to tap, tap, tap. Okay. Because we want this is what we want, right? Then I want all of this. This is where I would change the polygroup with polylooping. I want all this to be the same polygroups. So the looping around. So this can be, as an example, this can be a different polygroup. This can be a different polygroup, right? So now I have this as my shape. Okay. So we have this kind of thing going on. And then now we can do where we get rid of the green and the purple and we're back to this. But now I've got the shape that I actually need in here. Let's go. Boom, like this. Okay, so we could go this route. Or I could also do, we do an inset, right? So I can come in here. I can do an inset, say polygroup all, right? And then do an inset like this. Right, and I only care about the green. If I wanted to do the standard, I think that's going to create, yes. We could do a standard. Just do something like this. Go right around there. And then I can tap and do the purple. Right, and then now this, Q mesh, polygroup all. And then there's my new piece that I want. All right, and then I definitely want creasing in certain areas. So I want that creased. I want that, whoops, I want that creased. I want that creased. That creased. Give me that creased, that creased as well. Let's look at this now. Get that creased. Perfect. I want that creased and that creased. I don't want that creased. Good. Okay. I want that one creased though. I want that one creased. I want that one creased. Crease that. Looks like, let's go down to these corner. Looks like we're okay here. We could probably, like, I don't even need that edge loop here. And that edge loop. We don't also need that edge loop. We don't need that edge loop. Like, that's enough down there. Okay. Crease is what we have here. All right. And then there's that piece that I want. So let's do a save next in there. Okay. Okay. I'm going to catch up with the questions. Off time, do you have a setup generic redshift skin material with SSS? West 3D Art. No, I do not have a generic redshift skin material with SSS. The problem with it is subsurface scattering is dependent by physical size of the model, right? So there's not going to be a perfect one for that. You're going to have to play with the scaling slider the most. So you could probably start with one and then play with a slider. When we did this, we were playing and we could never just get one that I think would work most of the time for you all. So it's something I can look at doing for sure. So what I mean is if you switch to here, redshift material basic, okay, right? So your subsurface here, right? Your weight is how much, you know, obviously the weight you want. This is what's also going to become important, this scale slider, right? This, you might need to be way down here to get good scaling. All right, so this is something that you're going to need to play with. Is this slider the most? That's the one you're going to have to play with the most when you're trying to get subsurface scattering dialed in. I would do test renders and then just play with this slider only. And I would go extreme. So what I mean by that is, hey, do something like this at 0.2, do a render, okay, and then go like, okay, let me go 0.5 and then do a render, and then let me go to 1 and do a render, right? And you can kind of get a better gauge. And then when you're rendering, don't forget that when you do render, you can use this right here. right? So when I render this, we're going to store the render, right? So this is going to render out now as we move along here. Let it finish rendering. Oh, and I see my little thing might have been in the way when I was talking about this. So see how this is rendered? This is now here going to store this, right? So now if you try a different one, I say, okay, let me do a scale of, let's go super extreme. Let's do 0.1. And then let me render with that, right? But obviously I would want to render with Redshift, not with BPR right now. I didn't turn on Redshift. I'm just giving you the workflow that I would do. And then now, right, you've got two renders here. And the beauty is we will update all the settings. So if you see, this is now at 1, and then if I come in here, the material. So look at the scale slider. See, this is at 0.09999. And see, we update the slider. So this is how you can experiment. And then in here, I usually go with some reds. Like, obviously, you probably do a little bit brighter red here. And I sometimes tend to do a little bit more of a darker red there. That is what usually I start with my two colors when I'm doing that. So let me know if this helps. This is the kind of thing I would start to do, the dial in to get your subsurface render for a Redshift. And then don't forget, you can do Control R, and that's going to do a render region. Unfortunately, you can't change the render region size in ZBrush. It's always just going to give you based upon, it's looking at the document size, and it's giving like, so this is it. This is the biggest region I can do, but I can do another one right next to it, right? So I can do another render region. And so when you render, it will only render that region area, right? So I could do a couple renders next to each other, and you can really get a good gauge. So this is the same thing as going into your render and hitting this cursor button, and you can see Control R, okay? If that helps. And then as far as bigger than ZBrush Unified, yeah, 100%. If you're talking about physical size, yeah, the model can be a lot bigger, and then you'd be fine. It's Redshift, that fact, right? When you're rendering with Redshift, it's not us now, right? We're switching to Redshift as a render. The viewport becomes Redshift in essence, right? And giving you the results. So it's their rules of their materials, right? And part of that is how you get the materials that you do. What I would recommend, honestly, is I'd probably go find a good skin material for, like, say, Cinema 4D or Maya, and then go look at what the default settings are, right? Because this is an exact replicant of a Redshift material in another DCC, like in Cinema and stuff like this. What we don't have in ZBrush is we don't have the ability to do node, right? And what you won't have is the ability to have textures assigned, and roughness and stuff. We don't have that yet in ZBrush. But you could probably start with defaults somewhere, right? Throw your model in maybe another DCC and see that if you have that ability and render with Redshift. You do, if you have a ZBrush subscription, you have a Redshift with it. You get Redshift in essence with it. So the ZBrush subscription gives you ZBrush Desktop, ZBrush iPad, and Redshift CPU. So it only will use your CPU, but you can also run that in the other DCC. So let me know, West, if that helps at all. That's the best I can give you. Like I said, I do not have any default thing that I can share with you, unfortunately. Yeah, it's basically the same as Redshift Standard. So like if I launch Cinema, right, and I open up a Redshift material, all the sliders here, if I switch back to a Redshift material, okay, all these sliders are the same. And all the color swatches, we just have them all living down at the bottom instead of living by each of the preferred. So they're just named so you know which one does what. So that's it. So a time-lapse sculpt, in order, you're just saying doing a time-lapse. So you want to render with Redshift and do a time-lapse of that. So what I mean, you're referring to probably like the time-lapse here, this time-lapse. Right, so if you render first, can it do a time-lapse, right? Is what you're looking at. So if we, let's just go with this for now. Let's grab a sphere, boom, boom, boom. Right, and then now you want to say, let's do a movie, let's do a time-lapse. Now you start sculpting, right? Like this. Start sculpting, 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 sculpting. And now you pause, right? And then I did full size. You're playing movie. And let's get rid of this. This is going to be really fast, right? It's time lapsing, right? So if you render ahead of time and then do a movie, right, like this. So if let's just make the movie. Let's export. Okay, so I'm just going through this so people know what we're talking about too. Let's do a little bit more. It's too fast of a movie. Let's just do some other stuff here that's just different, right? Let's go up. Let's divide up now. Okay, so now movie. Well, I didn't turn on time lapse back on. That's usually useful. Let's go backwards. Okay. Let's do time lapse. Let's start doing this. Move it out. Start manipulating the surface a little bit more. Oops, let's just give this ability. Let's divide it up. Right? And then now I can render, right? And then now I'm going to say pause it. And let's export the movie. Let's save it over top what I have. And then now, let's grab the movie file. Desktop. And let me put it in a list. Wait, or did I put it in downloads? Where the heck did I put it? Oh, let's do this. Did I put it... put it on the desktop. Okay. Put it on the desktop. ZBrush movie. Okay. And then here's your time lapse. Right? So rendering, like even BPR, is not even appreciated. So keyshot, Redshift also there. It'll finish with the render, right? But it's not going to do a time lapse with the render going. You can do turntables with Redshift and Keyshot, but not a time lapse. Just so everyone is understanding what the heck we're talking about. Okay. Shift R and then Redshift goes. Oh, if you're trying to do, but you're trying to then say, you're trying to do the different one. You're not doing a time lapse. You're doing this, right? You're doing that. You want to do this. This is different. This is the history. If you want to do that one, that's different. That will go to each undo and then render. Right, so see it's still rendering the shadows there. So, and then Redshift should work. I haven't actually, honestly, I haven't tried it. I don't even know if, I don't know if I have Redshift installed on this computer. No, I don't have Redshift installed on this computer. I haven't tried it, so honestly, I don't have the answer for you. I don't remember if we made it. It should, because it's just going through the undo history, so I'm pretty sure it does, but honestly, I do not have the answer for you. Sorry. Okay. Hold on, let me delete all on this. Back to this. All right, so wait, see, I saw another question. So if you have a bumpy surface after sculpting, how do I get the model to smooth without destroying detail and maintaining hard edges? I'm not sure. Well, we started the stream with me going through like how to fix, but it sounds like you're wanting something else now. It sounds like you want something different than what that person was asking for. So, like, we were talking about lumpiness here, so we were going back, right? And then they were trying to smooth things out. But because this is a mesh that has like it's a Dynamesh with triangles, when you go to smooth stuff, right, like this, right? If there's triangles, you can start getting some like that right there, that lumpiness right there. If you hold shift and let go of shift, you can now relax that and you won't get the lumpiness. This is kind of more of a relax. But it sounds like you are thinking more, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here. To me, it sounds like you're wanting more something like if I did a pinch, right, like this, and then let's say I really do it harsh like this, right? And it's really pinching, kind of creating that hard surface, the hard line right here, right? There's a very hard, crisp line starting to happen. Your problem is, this brush in particular is doing this to the topology, right? It's pulling on the topology and making it all come to the middle, all right? So there's two ways I can fix this. And I'm not sure this is going to do, but I'm going to show it anyways. So one way would be I would mask off the area that I want to edit or change or kind of make better topology for. All right, something like this. And then I would inverse the mask. So now it's unmasked. And then deformation, we made on a relax. So this relax, I can go pretty extreme. I can try and relax the surface. And you see now it did that. So it's still, see, trying to maintain the peak, but the topology now looks like this. Right, and again, this is a Dynamesh topology even too. Right, so now I've got good topology here again. So if I wanted to even use the Damien standard on this, right, I actually could. Right, I could sculpt in here like that, right? If we go backwards, I can't use Damien standard. Like, look, it's pointless because the topology's so bad, right? But if I do a relax, and I'm doing really aggressive relax with it open, if you do a closed circle, it's not as aggressive, right? You see it's kind of maintaining that. I'm going to go aggressive, and then there, right? So this is what I get. So now I could take Damien standard and do that. However, there is another way to do this, especially if you are going to live in the world of subdivision levels, which I think everyone should be living in subdivision levels, okay? All right, so if I want to divide this up a little bit more, we'll go one more. No, let's not go to 9 million. Let's just stay around here just for the time of you guys understanding. Okay, so this, you can see the topology is brutal. And my sculpting, I really wanted this pinching peak here and then kind of just start spiraling into this, right? Same thing if I go back to my pinch. Hey, up here, I want it to even be a little bit more pinched here, right? There's only so much the topology can support, right? So now I'm really pulling on the topology to support this, right? So I'm just making this worse. So another way you can do this is with subdivision levels. Okay, I've got 4. I'm going to walk down a couple, all right? And I'm going to smooth this out. Like, in essence, I'm going to smooth this topology out a little bit so it's a lot more relaxed. And this is where I could use the relaxing, letting go of the shift key. I want to live more in that world, right? So now the topology is very nice now. It's a lot better, but I'm sitting at level 2. ZBrush still understands what level 3 and level 4 looks like. It knows what it is. And I don't want to update 3 and 4 based upon where now I'm sitting at 2, because that will change my 3 and 4. So what I'm going to do is tell it, hey, you know what I want you to do? I want you to go get the remembered level 4 with that detail I have, and I want you now to project it into this version of the model with this topology. So in the subtool project, we have a button called reproject higher subdivisions. So this is going to say, oh, you want me with the state it's on right now, go find what the highest level is, and in my case it's level 4. Get that version of the model, map it back up, and then project your detail in, but with this topology. So if I click this button, I'm going to now go and tell ZBrush, hey, go get level 4 for me, and then give me back level 4 sculpting detail. So now you can see I got my sculpting. I even get this ugliness back, but the topology, if you look, is good. So I could actually just smooth this out and get rid of this ugliness now. And now I'm back to having nice, clean topology, right? And then now if I go to Damien Standard, right, you can now see I can get a great stroke from Damien Standard in here, right? I can still sculpt nicely here, right? I could even go back to the pinch brush, and now I've got relaxed geometry, and now I can still keep playing with the pinch right here on the newer, again, topology that's been fixed by me. Does that make sense? So the person I was asking that question, Tamel Loshoma 7259, butchering your name probably. Is this what you were asking about? Is like, hey, how do I clean up the topology when it's kind of really rough and I just want to keep sculpting? I'm not sure if this is you're asking, but you know what? I'm thinking this is what you're asking, but you got to let me know if this is what you were asking for or not, because I don't know if this is what you were looking for your question. If not, then if you could expand your question a little bit more, that way I can make sure I'm getting what you want answered in here. Now I'm seeing something in here. Right now I'm seeing some kind of swirly thing that would be cool. And then here I probably want to raise this. Fun. Cool. Okay, perfect. Thanks. That's what you were looking for. Great. Okay, hold on. Now the next question I see came up is, let me see, if I have shroom that I duplicated a bunch of places, scaling them on my scene, is there a way to poly paint one of them and copy paste color to all of the others? Yes, there is. There is a way to do that. Yep. So you have like a mushroom? Is that what you have? You like some kind of mushroom thing? Is that what you're saying? You have something like that, right? Let's even just do. Let's delete this. Let's turn this back into a, oh, Dinah. There we go. But let's replace it with a clean. Let's replace it with a cylinder, actually. Let's go like this. And then I want to look at right front. And let's do this instead. Let's divide it up. Perfect. Let's Dynamesh it. Let's Dynamesh. Let's go brush. Let's use my handy dandy clay buildup. Let's throw radial symmetry on along the Y. And then just start sculpting something up. Redynamesh, and then let's start doing this. Redynamesh. Now it's starting to look like an explosion. Okay, let's do something like this, and then now maybe let's add a little bit more volume in this. Redynamesh. Okay. Like this. All right. Damien Standard. It's making me laugh. Let's just then maybe do something like this. So it's just maybe a little bit more mushroom-like, if that's. Although, you know, let's put something like this all the way in, just so it doesn't look so much like an explosion mushroom. Okay, so let's also start moving this around a little bit more like that. Okay, perfect. Okay, so your question is, I've got this. You have populated a scene, right, with the same mushroom, okay, in this case. So in essence, if I did this, okay, then I did another one. I even rotated, changed like this, changed the size of this one. Let's do another one, and then maybe it's bigger rotationally, right? Because they're not all going to be equal. They're not all going to be the same, right? Something like this, let's just say, okay? So you have this, and I've got different mushrooms, different sizes. So I've got, here, let's make another one a different size. Let's do this one a little bit different size and do like this. Okay. All right, and so now you want to paint something on this, right? So let's say, let's paint. Okay, so I'd say let's RGB, let's color fill this with white. And now you want to start using some color. Your problem is you maybe want to be very specific with your color, right? So you might want to be coming in here and painting this, and you want this purple streak to also be the same location on all the other mushroom things here that I've made, okay? This is 100% possible. This is what the repeat to similar parts does. So this is the same topology. The key thing is all these must be the exact same topology. It doesn't matter though about size. It doesn't matter about orientation. They just have to be the same topology. So I've replicated this mushroom thing and just repeated it. So as long as that is the case, we're good to go. So this feature is looking at topologies, looking at vertexes, and it's going to look at your undo history straight. And this is going to give you guys the ability not only to transfer paint, but it's also going to give you guys the ability to transfer polygroups and also masking. And if I wanted to swap this out with something completely different, like a whole different piece of topology, you can do that as well. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to hold down the control key and tap on this up here, okay? So this is your undo history right here, okay? So now, if I want to say, okay, let's grab that purple, well, and say, let's put purple right here, right? So you can see that's got the purple streaks here, right? So I got some purple streaks. So I saved a state when it was in one place. So if I just say apply to similar parts, boom, they all get it, right? So you can just continue the process here, right, of applying. But you can see this, it's saying, whoa, 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 there's been some changes though since the last do on marker. So if I want to continue this process, I make a new undo marker, then I do the paint, okay, like this, then you can do it and it goes everywhere. So now if I want to do another undo marker, I can even say, let's mask something off like this. Okay, now it's masked. Then I can boom, and then it all gets the same mask. That's what this feature is all about. It's all about like a non-destructive instancing system in essence, to where it's not an instance. You've already got the topology, but we've turned instancing idea into this feature. Okay, and then you have the ability to actually replace things as well. So what I mean by that, if like the technique that I like to use sometimes is I'll grab, say, something like this and insert mesh brush. Okay. And what we're going to do is take a marker of where this is at right now. I'm going to do, like, let's take the gizmo. I'm going to say I want it to be like this. And then I'm going to say, give me this one. Right. And now that I have that, I replaced it, right? It's been replaced. If I clear the mask and say apply to other, they all get replaced and the ratios are actually maintained now. This is a certain larger size than, say, the original, right? So this was a lot tinier. So you can see this ratio to these. When I did this, they said, well, actually your new mesh that you just replaced got a lot bigger. So now I need to apply that same ratio across this. So for example, it might have been better when I did this marker or where we're at to take the biggest mushroom that I have, which is this one, center that in there, right? The blue arrow is important. This is what the mesh is going to use, right? So I can center it like this, replace, right? And then this is what it replaced, clear, and then apply. And you see still tiny. Those three are the same size, and this one's a little bigger. So when you're doing this, if you have different sizing stuff, I would go to the largest item to do this replacement ability. Okay, so this is what apply to similar parts does. This is a newer feature. So you got to have, I think we put this in, I want to say 2024. Is this when this got put in? Version 2024, I want to say. So only been in for a couple of years. but it has saved me multiple times. Does this answer your question? Okay, so you're asking, is it possible when you're sculpting with snake hook, sculpting the horns on a leaf, can you have them be different polygroups? Yes, you can do that as well. That would be possible. Yes, I'm gonna have to show you though how to do that once again. So let's replace this. Let's center this, and let's replace this again. Let's grab a sphere this time. Let's put it into the world space. Let's go a little bit bigger. Okay, let's divide this up. Again, I want to Dynamesh, oh Dynamesh. All right, let's shape something out a little bit more here. Let's do a deformation. I'm going to do this. Let's look at the front, top, back, right, front. Okay, let's make it be symmetrical. And then let's start having some fun here. Let's start making with this. Make this be a little bit more stretched. Okay. Then maybe let's play with this one. And maybe shape it a little bit differently. A little something like that. And then let's take this. Oops. Let's stretch this out. And then now let's take this one and let's push it in a little bit. Okay. That looks good to me. And then let's take these. Okay, and let's say I'm going to accept this. And then I'm going to make another one. And let's also go symmetrically this way. And then let's take this and just squish it down a lot more. It's a little bit more of what I maybe would want. Okay, golden, brush move. Okay, symmetrical. Let's turn off radial. So we're just doing this again, right? You start shaping this a little bit more. Some kind of, I don't know, shape that. I don't like that at all. All right, good enough, I guess. Good enough, I guess. You get the idea, right? I'm sure. Okay, and so you want to use snake hook, right? So you're using snake hook. I'm assuming you are using snake hook 1 or snake hook 2. I'm gonna assume you're using snake hook 1 is what I'm going to assume you're using, which is camera plane dependent. So snake hook, the original. I'm gonna say okay. So when you do this, right? Let's turn off the polypaint. When you're snake hooking, right? Let's turn on polyframe. You're doing this, right? You're pulling on stuff, right? To maybe do this, right? Like that. And then maybe this, I also would think would be very nice to turn on. Would be curve in the acu curve, right? So then you can really get some simple points, like really work on more point like that, right? You get really different kind of point structure there. Okay, so what you're going to be able to do, this is probably where you would want to assign a shortcut, okay? Would be, you're going to come down here to polygroups. And right here on the very bottom, there's a button called Group Changed Points. So when you pull on this, every vertex that has been pulled on, you can click this and it'll create a polygroup. And so now that's got its own polygroup, right? And the less vertexes that are being affected, right? The less, right? So every vertex point that's been moved from this sculpt is going to be within that polygroup section. Okay, so every time you click, you're going to get a new polygroup, right? So then you probably would want, hey, let's make this a hotkey. I'm going to make it the number 9 for now. Okay, and so when I pull on this, I can now just hit 9 key, 9 key, 9 key. And every time, you're going to get a polygroup, right? Every time that I pull on it and hit the 9 key, pull on it, hit the 9 key. Right, so what you also have the ability to do, which might be something that you want, okay, is actually all these little spikes. Okay, I'm loving where I'm going, but I want all the spikes now to be the same polygroup is what I want. Okay, that's what I'm looking for, is the same polygroup, right? So I can go back in my undo history, right? But the polygon count can't change. So I would have to be there. From this one, I'm going to say marker. And then now I've done this. And now if you hit this, they all get the same polygroup now. See? So this is what it was. This is what it is. So you can do it one stroke at a time, or at the beginning of this model, you wanted to make the marker. But again, if you're going to use Dynamesh, if you're going to do this, right, and you start doing this, it's got different topology. So that undo history is looking at vertex order, and you've just changed that vertex order by retopologizing. Okay, so you can't do the full list one of the undo history unless the model stays exactly the same, polygon count wise. Then you can do the whole thing that way, right? Okay, is this what you're looking for? I'm assuming this is what you're looking for, and this should help answer your question. Yes? I'm going to go on a limb and say hopefully that is what you were looking for. Let me know in the chat if that will work, or if you want me to expand upon that. And if anybody did not get that, then now's your time to speak it up. All right, I'm going to go with silence in the chat that everyone's good to go. Okay, so back to Mr. X-Wing. Okay, so I have this. Let me get my X-Wing. Let's start putting some cylinder pieces in here. All right, I would say let's get the two in the dead center right now. Let's get those. Okay, so let's select this. All right, I'm going to solo this out because all I want is this one. Let's center that. Okay, and I am going to duplicate this up. And now I'm going to grab a cylinder, 3D. And let's size this way down. More in that world. Let's make it be 90 degrees like this. Let's make sure I want it creased like that. Okay, and then that sits. Okay, so it sits more here and gets a little bit bigger. I'd say maybe that's probably as big as I want to go. And then there's another one further on down the back. That one looks like it's a little bit bigger. That one looks like it's just a touch bigger. I'm going to go like that much bigger. And then they don't sit so high. Like this sits more like down there. Right? And then I'm going to inverse Control W so I can have a different poly group so that I can easily manipulate this. Okay, so I'd say it's more like that. Okay? Everyone's still there, yeah? Because I'm not seeing any other chat responses coming through. So I'm assuming everyone is still here. Right? And then there is some kind of panel that almost touches. One, two, three. I'd say three, okay. Let's say there's a panel here. All right, so let's take this. We'll mask that off. Let's center it. Let's do this. And then there's some kind of panel. So let's just use a Q for that panel. All right, definitely want that creased. So it sits here. And it goes. It does go straight across like that. And it's almost touching, so it's something like this. Maybe not that much. More like, probably more like that. Okay. And then there's cylinders that are repeating, so it does not go. It goes far across, but not that far across. So let's, whoops. Let's mask this off. Let's give it a little bit more breathing room there. It's pretty much almost touching that right there. We're going to do that. Okay. And let's go ahead and boom. Let's reset this. Let's reset that. I am going to now duplicate this up. And I want this. I want the blue, so I want it up. So the blue arrow is the direction that the primitives are going to take. I want the cylinder to be like that. Let's crease it. This is a lot smaller. So it takes up about half. Like it lives more in that realm. Lives right about there. I'd say right about there. And then there's two of them. So then I make another one. Do like that. Okay. And let's fix this now. Let's center it. Let's reset it. And they're a lot smaller. They're not that big. I'm going to go more on that. And then they're barely sticking out of this. They're more around there. Okay, something like that. Okay, and then there needs to be some cube shapes. Looks like there's 3 of them down here on either side. So let's do this one. Okay, let's do this. Let's see. I'm trying to think what's going to be my easiest way to do this. Actually, let's not take this one. Let's go to this one instead. Center it. This. That way I can have them here. It sits in there. It needs to be a cube. So it's going to be a cube. Then I need to be about that big. And again, we'll crease it so they're more cubic shaped. Let's see how close it gets. Okay, so it's tough to tell. They're very subtle. But I think I gotta go a little bit bigger at this. Okay, does it go all the way to this wall? Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna go all the way to that wall. Yeah, I'm gonna say they're pretty much almost touching the walls. And so I need 3 of them. Okay, and then how tall does it get? I think it might be lucked out. It's a little too tall. I think we need just a little bit smaller. Just a bit smaller. Alright, so let's take these, recenter. Let's take this and then let's size them down just a bit. Let's turn on yes, that's going to be a problem. So let's delete symmetry. So a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Or oh, I think I went a little too much. Yeah, right about there. I'd say they're more like that. And they don't sit this high. But again, I'm 3D printing, so I don't want to go too low. Okay, that's good enough. Okay, that works. It looks like we're getting the right proportion and size of everything. That's kind of what I'm just trying to do right now. is figure this all out. I think we're in great shape, actually. I was looking at all the main pieces. Okay. Let's take this grid here. Let's take this. Got one. Okay, there's 6. Okay, so there's 6 going across. Let's go to this. Let's start putting this together. Let's split this off. Splitting it off. Right? I'm going to do a save next. I haven't saved in a while. Thanks, Nick. Thanks for coming by. Okay, still here. Okay. Yeah, I'm using a real... I have images for like pure roughing type of images, but I'm using a physical... Right, if you look at the camera, I find this just so way more helpful than an image. You can really dive more into this, so I'm using this model that they put together. I thought they did a good representation of the X-Wing from Luke, so I'm just using this as kind of like my guide. I'm, in a way, kind of replicating that with this, right? So, am I 100% probably accurate to the X-Wing, the movie file? No, probably not, but I'm okay with that. It's not like I'm trying to make the movie file, right? I'm just trying to be a fan. That's it. That's it. And I'm making them so I can have a fight scene above me in my office. Okay, so this is this, okay? And I want it almost butts into that, okay? And I need 6 of them. Yes, 6 of them. So I'm going to use array mesh. So let's go array. That we need 6 total. Right, and then let me do this. And now we just need to do that. So there's 6 of those. They definitely don't need to be this tall. They're more around there. Okay, how long are they? They go right out the back practically a little bit. So I probably want to go a little bit longer here. Yeah, they're a little too short. So I'm going to click on that normal right there. And then that way I can make them longer like this. I'm going to go up a little bit more like that. I'm going to give them a little more that. Okay. They might be a little too wide. I'm going to go a little bit less. Maybe more in that realm. Okay, perfect. That'll work for me. And then now I need the other way across. Okay, so I need... Oh wait, it looks like... Oh, this idea continues up above. Okay. No problem. Let's do that. There's a little gap there, though. So let's take this polygon here, brush the modeler. Let's hold, let's see, we need a QMesh single. I'm going to click and then hold the control key so I can pull it off. And now I have this. Right? And then I am creasing. So now I have this. So those repeat up top. So they're going to sit more there, more something like that. And they'll also sit a little bit lower, it looks like, and they're a little bit skinnier. So I'm going to go a little bit skinnier on them, more in that realm, and then they sit even lower. Right, and then they don't stick out this far. So let's bring them in more. Like that. Okay. That takes care of that. Now we need the other direction. Okay, so let's call this, let's rename this. Rename this main grid back. Right, and then we're going to duplicate this and rename this small grid back. All right, and then now we are going to, for the sake of this, let's delete the array on this one. Let's start from the bottom, I think, is where I'm going to start. And it's tough to read, so I'm just going to do what I think is best. I'm going to do 4, maybe 5. I think 5 might be good. All right, let's take this, center it. Let's not have symmetry on. No symmetry. Center it. Then we can do this. And then this is going to sit across the model like so. And actually, we don't want this one anymore. We don't want that one. Delete hidden in that way. I can center it. Boom. And then so this is going to sit and stretch across. And then it's going to be underneath. And it's going to be much skinnier. Something more like that. Maybe just for the sake of printing, I'll go a little bit bigger. And then now we want to array this. Let's array this. I'm going to start with 5. And let's take this. Right, and now I'm just going to, I want 5 across. Okay, so I'm going to go more. I'm going to go 6. Maybe 7. Okay, and then I think I want to go a little bit skinnier with them. I don't like how wide they are. And then now I'm going to skip. Oh, let's see. Actually, I'm going to do here. I see that I want to maybe put a little difference in them. It actually looks like a little bit different in the gap. Okay. All right. What do I have in the back again? Okay, so there's a bigger one in the back, okay, and a bigger one in the front. Okay. So we definitely want to hone that in now. Okay. So in essence, let's take this. And there's supposed to be a bigger one here. Sits more like this. It goes all the way across. So it goes all the way across like this. And it definitely would not sit this high. This is ginormous. This, and then it's just a bit higher, and then now there's another one. It sits back here. It is skinnier, and I would say I'm going to keep them along the same line. All right, would say also part of my problem is some of these are, so now let's go to this, whoops. Yeah, I'm selecting that. This is the one. This is the one I want. I think more like that realm, and then it sits lower than both of those. So it sits somewhere more in that world, and then these ones. Darn it. Is it these ones? Yes, these ones sit even lower. Something like that. And let's not make so many now. Let's go back down to like 4. And then, oops, I am offsetting the wrong one. I want them to be a little bit tighter. And more like that. There we go, something more like that. That's working for me. Then the ones that are these, whoops, let's apply, is it these ones? Yes, let's apply these, whoops. Let's apply them so it actually makes them. So now I have this, and then these two, and first this, symmetry, center them, put it like this. Let's turn our local on, let's do this. These are actually bigger. Something more around that. And then they sit more in line. Oops, I'm rotating. With this one. They're more, it's more like that feel. That's the feel I'm going for. Okie dokie. Let's take this back now. Right, these need to get changed now. Let's center that. Let's do this. Let's move them up. Definitely not going to sit that high. They're going to sit more around that realm. Sit more like that. And one of them is going to be, I might want a little too aggressive with the thickness on this one, honestly. Looking at it, I think I'd be better off, let's do, and then Q meshing this in, yes. Oops. That. I'm gonna go a little bit skinnier. And let's crease it. Crease, crease, crease. So we have this instead. Okay, and this here, let's put insert. We're going to do a crease. We're going to snap it halfway through. So there's the halfway. And then we're going to go and say insert. Let's do an insert. Not the face. I want an edge. Insert single edge loop. Yeah, let's keep the creasing on. Turn symmetry on. Needs a lift probably. Let's go right around there. And then this Q mesh pops out like this. Let's see if this will work. See what this looks like. Something like that, I would say. Right, then this has got, right. Let's see how am I gonna, how do I want to fix that? Okay, I'm going to then do, oops, something around like that. Then Q mesh this up, whoops, only to here. And then now I want to take all these, Q mesh these out to about there. And then now, let's Q mesh this out. So we can create a hole, whoops, through here. So something like that. Yes, okay, so we need, this needs to be a little bit more wider. Something like that, and then crease. Right, that's good, and then I would say I'm going to go a little bit more wider with this. There we go. And then let's make this be a little bit. And let's crease these as well. There we go. There. Now I have that portion done. All right, and then it's always going to select that one subtool. Sorry, I've gotten on Groove and I've kind of stopped looking at your questions. My bad. Time is it? Okay. And then I want this one to live in here. Wait, I don't want to duplicate it. I just want to move it into there. Something like that. Something like that. I don't know if it has that actually. What we need to do is actually, I don't think we have that. You know what? What we're going to do instead, let's undo that, is let's go back to this one. I think I just need to move this a little bit closer. Don't be shy. I think it needs to live more there. And it does not stick out at the top. So this, I'm always going to do that. This does not stick out. It sits inside like that. Okay. Now we've got something. Now we've got something. Now we're cooking. Now we're cooking. Okay. Let's save next. Let me look at your guys' question. Okay, hey, having real model can be very compared to trying to interpolate something from a single messy sketch. Yes, how can I prepare object with thin surfaces not to cause defects during Dynamesh? You really can't. It's a Dynamesh rule. If it's too thin, then it's not going to maintain it. It's got to be watertight. And if there's surfaces on top of surfaces, the only thing you're going to be able to do is raise your resolution. That's about it. That you're going to be able to do as well, depending on what you have going on, right? So it really comes down to, what do you mean by thin? I guess would be, how thin are you trying to be? There isn't much else you can do about it, except there might be times where you could play with this little dot right here. This will allow it to have kind of different resolutions by physical, like size. So that would work, right? That might be it. But it's been a while since I've used this dot. I'd have to try and put something together to show you guys what that is. But we've made that to be, hey, you have multiple islands of topology, and some islands are larger than other islands. So the smaller islands make sure they get more density topology than, say, the bigger islands, as an example, to maintain it. That's what that dot was built for. So that might be something you're looking for, but no, it's besides, here. So did I? I'm going to do a save as just to make sure I'm saving to. Okay, I'm at 64. Save it, replace it. Okay. So I mean by there's a project here, thick plane, this. Okay. So you can see this is thin. This is pretty thin. This is real topology, right? If you're going to try and dynamesh this, it can be dynameshed, right? And it's fine, see? Okay, because there's enough volume here for it to maintain. But if we start, let's center this in the middle. Let's turn off perspective for now. Right, if you start to get really skinny, the problem is the plane, the volume is getting less and less, right? So you can see it still does a pretty good job. But if you're going to go like if you're going to go here like this, let's do this. Like super skinny, then there's just not enough volume there, right? Like this is really, 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 really skinny. So when you dynamesh this, this is what you're going to get, right? It's just too skinny. So what you can try and do is you could raise your resolution a little bit, then try and have it maintain that. And you see now it's maintaining the skinniness better, right? But you see at here, it's super difficult because it's got one row of topology right there. So if that's what you're referring to, like a skinny plain item like that, it's all about your resolution. You could definitely turn off the blur because that's applying a smoothness. The blur is actually a smoothness. That's tricky. Dynamesh doesn't like this. Thin objects usually just inflate and spread everything as much as... Yeah, okay. So what Nick's telling you, yeah, you can inflate. It's kind of like a self-healing thing. Pig Knight. Hey, got a bit of in the weeds question. I can't find info online. Import works for Maya, but not for Blender. Any idea? No idea. It's probably the type of FBX that Blender is doing isn't seeing the settings for the FBX that we have, because there are multiple different FBXs and what they can store. So maybe what year of FBX are you using in Blender to what FBX you're exporting in ZBrush would be the thing I would look at. And I would see maybe what settings are in Blender for FBXing importing and see what that has. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can tell you otherwise than that. It's probably because their FBX, the way it's formatted, they've changed something. It's not maybe the standard also FBX. Like just like ROBJ is not necessarily the standard OBJ. It is a standard, but ROBJ does more. It actually even maintains polygroups, and it does other things like that that a normal OBJ can't do. So there might be something that they've done with their FBX. I'd also look at the year and making sure that I have that in the settings. Unfortunately, I don't know Blender. I don't use Blender, so I can't help you there. But those would be the things I would look at to see if that's working. And also, what version of Blender are you using? What version of ZBrush are you using? So when you export like FBXs, there's different years. So if I switch to FBX here and we say save, it's going to have this, right? And this is where all the settings can be from it. Like, do you need to be an ASCII or a bin? I'd double check. I don't think they've updated the FBX since 2020. So I would see maybe there's a year that you need to use. This is all your other settings, right? Besides camera exporting. So maybe there might be something there. And then double check. Again, I'm assuming you're using, I don't know what version of ZBrush you're using, and I don't know what version of Blender you're using. I'm assuming you're using the newer version of Blender since it's free. But I don't know about ZBrush. Are you using 2022 or are you using one of the other years? So there was one time where we had to make a fix to make FBX work for Blender. But you're talking, this was like I want to say this was like version 2018. Like, it was forever ago. Like, it was literally 8 years ago. So I would double check on their side too, and then just see. You're using both the newest versions? Okay. So I do not know. I don't even have Blender installed on my system. It's something I'd have to look and see. I would start from there, and then if you want, if you still don't have it working, then I would make a support ticket on our site, and that way maybe someone even on our support team might know, oh, you got to turn this on or off or whatever, and then it'll work. But otherwise, I don't know, it's something that we'd have to dive into and see why is Blender's FBX import not accepting the cameras, and like Maya is and Cinema 4D is and things like this. So unfortunately, I don't have the quick answer for you. All right. Okay. Well, keep us posted, Pig Knight, and see. Again, make a support ticket. Is easier, right, too, because then we can have conversations with you and go back and forth with you and things like that if you really can't get it solved. Because, again, I don't know, maybe there is something else that they changed recently in Blender that it's not accepting what we've coded for FBX as cameras. Yeah, this could be a possibility. I have no idea. Okay. Is there any other questions popping up from anybody? Let's see if I got all the questions answered in the chat, I think. Okay. Let me see. Per object thin surface. I answered the snake hook one. I think I got everything, yes, in the chat. I don't think I missed anything. Okay, I think I got everything, yes. Okay. Yeah, because unfortunately, I got to get going here. So if there's no last minute questions, then I'm going to head out. Because I do have to go on my way, and I got to go pick my daughter up at school. So I have to leave here within the next 10 minutes. I'm working with Max. Okay, well, that's an V-Ray camera. Okay, with FBX. Okay, there might be different something going on, parameters going on there then. There could be a lot of different things, right? The way that they're interpreting it and how we're doing it. And then we might have to, on our side, we might even have to update a bunch of code too, because even though it's FBX, like there's libraries of FBX too. Like, is the programs using, in essence, Autodesk's FBX, or are they using somebody else that made a library in FBX, and maybe there's something else in that library that's causing the problem too? Like, all this stuff comes in factor. Welcome to development. Why also can't we just decide on one dang format? I'll never, I give up. USD now is the big one, and now is there going to be another one that comes along and be like, I want to use this one now? So, okay, so Nick's pointing out that maybe all cameras don't share the same properties and same items, so this could be maybe what's going on in Blender, possibly. Unfortunately, I wish I could give you the answer, but I do not have the answer for you, unfortunately. It's something I probably have to go do testing and see as well. Okay, any other questions? Before I'm going to stream again next Friday, so tell all your friends that you guys can come and fire away at me. I'll continue working on that X-Wing. It's a slow process, but I will continue working on it. So that I eventually will get it done. Well, eventually it will happen. All right. Any other questions? I'll put my pen back and I'll give us some time. So now speed tree. Now you're involving speed tree. I don't use speed tree either. So sometimes when you bring an FBX from speed tree, the materials can't be changed in ZBrush. Well, that doesn't make sense to me because we don't import any materials from anywhere. So you're saying what, a material comes over in the speed tree to FBX? Because we don't allow importing and exporting materials, because ZBrush has its own material system. It's not the same as any other program because of when it was made in the 90s, so it's a different material concept idea. So that's weird that you can't fill a material. I would double check, make sure. I would double check two things. Maybe something the way SpeedTree is doing it, it's exporting a material and it's making it a texture map. And then when you're trying to fill a material, you don't see a change, because if a texture map is on, you can't fill it, right? So if and this is also for paint, but you can, but you got to use a different button, right? So if I take here this guy, because I know I can make a quick texture, and new from polypaint, right? And now I want to switch the material, and I do this, right? You see the material doesn't change. If I come though over into here in the fill, and I say fill material, see the material changed. So I would double check that SpeedTree is not making some kind of texture when it's coming over, because the texture will block it from filling the material like it just did for me. So you would either have to use one of these fills or turn off the texture and then fill. I would say that would be the first thing I would look at and see if maybe it's something SpeedTree's FBX is doing that. It imports SpeedTree models in the Max, and then they had some crazy multi-sub materials and textures. So it's probably a texture. I guarantee, to what Nick's bringing up, I would bet that the FBX that's coming in ZBrush also has bringing in a texture, and that's why you can't fill. That would be the only thing, because there's no other. That's it. Otherwise, a material's fine to fill. You wouldn't. There's nothing else that's really going to block it, except if you have a texture and displacement map on, which you can't have a displacement map on without a texture map in ZBrush. So that would be my guess. And by what Nick said, I'd say that seems to be probably the main reason. Okay. All right, check it out. If you're joined next Friday, again, same time. I'm in the Los Angeles area, so I start at 11:30 a.m. 11 a.m. Los Angeles time, and I usually go till 1 p.m. Los Angeles time. So if you want to come back next week, if you can, let us know if that's what the problem was. That would be the only guess I can make, is that's what's happening. If not, if you can give me an FBX that is from SpeedTree, then I can open it in one of these sessions and I can take a look at it inside of ZBrush and see what other things maybe would be blocking the material from being applied to your model. That'd be the only other thing we could do. You could share a link, upload it somewhere, and then share a link in the chat, and then I can download it. All right, cool. Good question, though. Thanks, Nick, for jumping in, too, and sharing the information from Max. It's going to be what my bet is. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, again. Again, I will be streaming next Friday, same time. Like I just mentioned, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Los Angeles time. I always stream at this time on Fridays. This is my stream day and time that I like to do, as long as I am available, which, again, I'm available next week, so I'm good to go. Otherwise, thank you for joining me today. Hopefully you took away some stuff, saw some new stuff. And thank you, as always, being a part of the ZBrush community. Love it. Love being able to talk to you guys and share some workflows with you and hopefully inspire and give you more information. All right. So I am Paul Gaboury with Max on ZBrush, and I am